fishes. So what you see right here is basically all the fishes. Does it bother you that I say fishes?
Yes.
No.
Good. I'm glad it bothers you. Is it wrong to say the word fishes?
No.
It is not wrong. It is not wrong. What is the difference between the plural fish and the plural fishes?
The amount of species.
Yes. When you say fish, you just mean you have a bunch of fish. When you say fishes, you mean that you have a diversity, a number of different species. All right? So if you go fishing and you catch a bunch of largemouth bass, you can say I caught a lot of fish. But if you caught a largemouth bass and a catfish and a, sunfish of some type, then you actually could say you caught a number of fishes. And since we're talking about the full diversity of the fish world here, we're going to call it, or use the term, fishes. Now you can see we have some taxonomy that might be somewhat familiar to you based on what we did with arthropods and bugs. Arthropoda, which is the classification that all insects and all the other bugs we talked about falls into, is a phylum. That was phylum Arthropoda that we just talked about with that first unit of material. Now we're moving away from the arthropods and we're looking at some of the chordates. You're a chordate. What's a chordate?
Something with a backbone.
Yeah, it means you have a backbone, or at least, maybe not a backbone. Chordata really specifically refers to a spinal cord. There's some creatures that have a spinal cord but no vertebrae actually protecting the spinal cord, but they're pretty tiny and not real common anymore. We will be on chordata for the rest of the year. Birds are chordata. Mammals are in the phylum Chordata. And so are fish. Now, it gets a little bit weird with taxonomy sometimes because we started out 200 or 300 years ago with kingdom and then what? Phylum. King Philip came over for German sauerkraut. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, and genus, species. Genus and then species. Close, yeah. But here's the problem. Over the last few centuries, since Carolus Linnaeus developed that system of organizing all living things, we have found that it's a little bit more complicated than those, 7 taxa allow. And when I say taxa or taxon, that just means a group, like a class or a phylum. Okay? So as we've gone through, we've added supers and subs. Super meaning above and sub meaning good, class, below. Thank you. So there are actually what we call super classes, and we have 2 of them in the fish world, Agnatha and then Gnathostoma, with a silent G at least on the Gnathostoma. Based on what you know, what's the difference between Agnatha and Gnathostoma? You know this.
Agnatha doesn't have a jaw.
Yeah, that's right. Agnatha literally means no jaw. The A prefix a lot of times means an absence of or no. And then Gnathostoma means basically a jawed mouth or a jawed opening. So some fish do not have a jaw. They have a mouth, but it's like the lamprey, where it's just this round opening that essentially stays open. They have a way to kind of seal it off. but there's no jaw like what you have to open and close your mouth. So there are the jawless fish, and then there are the jawed fish. So that's a big classification, a big difference that we have when we separate these two. The two major classes of jawless fish, at least that we still have today, are the lamprey and the hagfish, which in terms of specific classes, and you saw these terms after your bug test last time, we have Petramyzontidae and Myxini. And you'll need to be familiar with these terms. Essentially, these are the technical names, the taxonomic names for the classes of these major types of fish. Anybody remember what Petramyzontidae means?
Something wrong.
It means rock licker or rock sucker, but they don't really lick or suck on rocks. And then Myxini means something to the effect of mucus or slime. I think it's actually where we get our word mucus, because it's Greek for like muxux or something strange like that. So these are our jawless fish. We will be doing another round of videos like we did with the bug orders, and each of these will be a possible group to cover. So we will learn about them, and I'll talk to you about them and have some slides for them. In terms of the fish that have jaws, we have the chondriichthyes, the Actinopterygii, and the Sarcopterygii. But you know them by other more common names. Chondriichthyes is the group that has all the what? Sharks and rays and skates. These are a strange class of fish that have that really weird rubbery cartilaginous skin. The Actinopterygii, a lot of times we call these bony fishes, but sometimes they're called ray-finned fishes. And when you think of a fish, if you just close your eyes and I say the word fish, whatever pops into your head is probably a member of this Actinopterygii. This is the dominant type of fish on the planet right now. And they are going to be your catfish, your goldfish, all the fish you find in lakes and rivers in this region. Many, 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 many fish of the sea. And then you have this really weird group that's very rare these days called the lobed fin fishes. And we will talk about all of them as well. The Sarcopterygians. Weird words, but just like with the bug orders, spelling is not a big deal. And honestly, I don't know that you'll ever need to write out any of these words. Typically on some kind of quiz or test, I would give you like a word bank here. So just kind of recognizing the word is enough for our purposes. Now the only thing I want to talk to you about, or the only remaining thing I want to talk to you about, is this chart. This is my favorite fish-related chart. This is the evolutionary family tree of the fishes, and it's got you on it. What do these terms mean along the side? What is this?
Time periods.
These are geologic time periods. That's right. Geologic time periods. Stretching back to the Cambrian, which started
541.
541. Good. What does that 541
Million
mean?
years ago.
Million years ago, which is what that MA means. Sometimes you'll see MYA, millions of years ago. So the story here stretches back over 500 million years in geologic history, in evolutionary history. Now, you have this little key right here on this chart, and you'll see this chart again, and you can probably even use it in your video for most of the topics that you'll have. The width of this blue bar is here to give you some idea as to why you have different widths and changing shapes on this graph. And this width right here, which is, as projected, 3 3/4 inches wide, is representative of 50 different taxonomic families. Okay? So it's an idea as to how diverse the group is at different time periods of the past all the way to the present. So the wider the blue bar, the more diverse, and the more narrow, the less diverse, and honestly, the closer to extinction. So what are some things when you look here that you could tell me based on what this graph is saying? Anything. Tell me anything you can glean from this.
There's more families of ravenfishes now than there were.
Yep, this is the Actinopterygii, the bony fishes or raven fishes. And today, they are vastly more diverse around the world than any of the other groups. They are currently the dominant general grouping of fish that we have on Earth today. What can you tell me about some of these other groups?
The placoderms went extinct.
Yeah! Your placoderms here aren't found after the Carboniferous period. So somewhere around, say, 300 to 350 million years ago, your placoderms go away. Placoderm is a fascinating fish. They're one of my favorite fishes, even though they're not around anymore. And they're one of the topics that you can choose for your video. But they died out because their little bar ended a long time ago. What do you notice every once in a while at these different time period changes? As say the Permian goes into the Triassic or the Triassic goes into the Jurassic. What do you notice? What do you notice? There are sometimes a sharp decrease, or is a sharp decrease in the diversity at some of these points. Because usually when one geologic time period ends and the other one begins, that delineation is there because what might have happened or what do we think happened at the end of a lot of these geologic time periods. Like what happened at the end of, say, the Jurassic time period? Yeah, you can have some sort of mass extinction based on some kind of global catastrophe. And it's not always asteroid. Sometimes it's a period of very, very active volcanic activity. Sometimes it can be general changes in climate, disease, even the appearance of oxygen in the atmosphere, which caused a very mass extinction way before the Cambrian. So some of these fishes suffered during some of these changes in geologic time period and are recovering or never recovered or died out completely. And then finally, what is one of the more unusual branches you see on this branching graph? Where are you? Where are you? You are a mammal. You're a mammal. Here in what we call the tetrapods, the kind of four appendaged, we have 2 legs and 2 arms, not 4 legs, but we fit into this tetrapod group. And if you track it back and notice 65 million years ago, bit of a hit to the diversity. and as well at other points. But where can you trace us back to and all of the land-looking map? The Sarcopterygii, the lobed fin fishes. That is our branch of the evolutionary tree. And then notice here, we call this the age of the fishes. The Devonian period was very important for fishes in general. There's a lot of diversity. I wouldn't say the most diversity because we have a lot of diversity today thanks to this one group. But the most different classes of fish existed during the Devonian. You can find this on Google. That's where I found it. And you can use it in your video. Your videos will be 2 to 3 minutes, just like the order of insect videos. I have an even number of students in zoology. So you will work with one other person. There should be an even number. Well, we actually have an odd number in the room. Somebody can work with Jose. I'm sure he would appreciate that. You can also work with someone else in another class. If you know someone that is working in another class, that is fine. But we're going to work that out. So, your job right now is to go on the coursework page. Find one of the 20 topics. Pick it. Have me write it down and tell me who you're working with. We're going to stop the video, and I will post it later for review.
What does it do?
So if you could stop the video, please. Thank you.